everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new tutorial. I'm going to be featuring some of the newest stamps and dies from Neat Tangled. On my desk here, I've got a variety of the new stamps and dies. This is the Clearly Canine stamp set and the adorable little dog face die. Then I'm also going to be using the So Fly stamp and die set and this really cool cover plate die. I'm going to first start off by using that cover plate die to create this really fun, colorful background using watercolors. I'm going to start off my card by taking the die and cutting it with some watercolor paper. And I'll end up cutting this twice. Once I've run this through with my die cutting machine, I'm going to make sure that I leave all of those negative pieces inside the die if possible. This is going to help me put this onto a piece of backing paper and fit this into place so nicely so that way I can color this. So I'm going to lay this into the adhesive, and if I had any pieces that would have popped out, I'd have just picked them up and laid them back into the adhesive. But I covered the entire piece of cardstock with some adhesive, and now I have this piece attached down onto that cardstock, and that's going to allow me to start coloring in the panels. I'm using my Prima watercolors here. These are the Prima Watercolor Confections, and I'm painting in each individual square with a different color of watercolor. I chose pinks, yellows, a mint, and a purple, and that's going to create a really pretty and bright, colorful combination that'll make a really fun background that'll pair up with the hooray sentiment that I'm going to be adding in a few minutes. After I've colored in all of the different squares, my background panel is ready to have another layer of that cover plate die attached down on top of it. Before I get to that point though, I'm going to take some Fine-Tech gold watercolors and splatter on some flicks of gold color to create some shimmery effects in the background. With that second piece of the cover plate die cut out, I'm going to lay this into a box and spray it with some spray adhesive. This is going to give me a nice coverage of adhesive on the back side of this, so I can now lay this piece over top of the cover plate die that we watercolored, and that's going to give me those nice crisp white edges. My idea with this was to create an inlay effect, but by adding the panel down ahead of time and then just adding another piece on top, it made putting this together so much easier. I'm taking that Hooray die. This is the big Hooray die set. There's an outline and also the sentiment itself. I'm going to actually cut the sentiment from some gold mirror cardstock. Originally I thought I wanted to do pink, but then I decided I want the banners to be pink. So I'm going to cover over that Hooray with a piece of gold mirror cardstock from Tonic Studios, and that's going to give me a really shiny and beautiful sentiment that'll match nicely with the gold flecks we have in the background. I did add some supporting sentiments from that stamp set that you see on the right hand side, and that's the So Many Sentiments stamp set, which is an older stamp set from Neat Tangled, but one of my favorites. I used a beautiful Neat Tangled sequin mix to add some sequins into the background. These are some see-through pink and also clear, and I really love these. Once I added the sequins down using some Nuvo drops, I'm going to take that same clear Nuvo drops and add that over top of the sequins and giving them a domed shape. It's one of my favorite techniques, and you see me do it very often, but it's an effect I really, really love. One more final step was to take some white Nuvo drops and add a few of those in and around the sequins in just some small areas. This card is super colorful and fun and very easy to put together, and you can color this in so many color combinations to create some really fun cards. Okay, so my next idea is to take the So Fly stamp set and create a really fun picture book style scene. I wanted to create something a little bit more whimsical, so I'm going to stamp the images onto some Canson watercolor paper and watercolor them in more of a storybook style effect. Storybook style really shows through when you have hard edges defining your coloring. So I'm going to start by applying some base colors down onto my images. That's giving me some nice coats of color to be able to then use as a base layer for the extra layer we'll add on top, and that's going to give everything shading but also that fun storybook effect. I really like the storybook effect because it gives everything a really whimsical and fun feel. To color in all of my images, I'm using a variety of different size paintbrushes depending on the area that I was coloring. I did use some very fine detailed number 2 brushes, and then a lot of the coloring I did with a number 6 or number 8. I'm trying to keep my colors fairly contained. I don't want to use too many colors because I don't want this coloring to be too busy. I'm going to have a lot going on in the scene, so I want to keep a somewhat limited color palette. So a lot of the colors you're going to see here are red, teal, blue, yellow, and just a little bit of purple here and there. Now here's where I'm going to create that storybook effect. What I do is I basically apply down some shading. So I add color in the darkest areas and then very lightly I blend it out with a paintbrush. And that's only in certain spots. In some cases I just leave it as is. Like on the hair of this giraffe, I'm just leaving that hard line exactly how it is. On some areas like the airplane and here on to the elephant, I will blend it out just a tiny bit, but when I do that, I use an almost dry paintbrush because I don't want to reactivate the color underneath, and I also don't want this to get too faded out. I want this to have a fairly defined edge, but depending on some areas, I wanted it to be slightly softer. But the hard edge of your coloring is what gives your images that fun storybook style. And I really think it's a fun way to give a really fun whimsical appearance to your coloring. I finished off the coloring by adding some rosy cheeks to the animals because it's one of my favorite things to do and it gives the animals a lot more life, I think. Now I'm going to move on to creating the sky. For the sky, I'm going to also do the same thing and keep some hard edges mixed into this background that I'm creating. I'm also trying to make sure I leave some white areas because I want that to give the illusion of some clouds. So I'm just scribbling on some color and I'm not trying to blend it out too much. As you can see, once it dried, I do have quite a bit of hard edges here and that's helping lend to that fun storybook effect. I'm going to start popping up my images with foam tape. I used one layer for the airplane and for the little banner that I'm going to stick over top of the airplane. However, the bird is popped up with 2 layers, and I also added the clouds down as well with 1 layer of foam tape. The sentiments are from the So Fly stamp set, and I heat embossed those with white embossing powder onto teal and purple cardstock. And then finally, I added some fun little embellishments with a white gel pen to further enhance that fun storybook style. Okay, one last card, and that's going to feature this really adorable dog die. I love how cute this little puppy is, and I wanted to use him with the cute, clearly canine sentiments. So I die cut the dog's head into some white cardstock, and I'm going to turn it around to the backside and cover the entire piece with foam tape. All over the face area, I'm really specifically trying to keep that tape really butted up and close together because I'm going to use that area to inlay the eyes and the nose that I've cut out from some brown cardstock. I'm going to fit those back into place. I'm going to remove the adhesive backing on the foam tape and layer this over top of a card base that I have created with some Lawn Fawn rainbow stripe paper. The head of the dog has an embossed line that you can see exactly where the head shape is supposed to be. So with that in mind and with that guide, I'm going to use that to help me color in the face of the dog. Now you can leave it plain white as is, or you can add in the color. I'm going to use some light browns. I used E30, E000, and E000. And I used those to create some shading to the dog's head. I didn't do too crazy of shading. I just basically added some darker color on the edges and then went lighter as it got towards the center. For the cheeks of the dog, I did use some R00 and that gave him a nice rosy tone. And with a white gel pen, I added some highlights and freckles to the puppy, and that gives him a little bit more life, especially the highlight areas of his eyes. Now I'm going to move on to the ears. I die cut those from that same brown cardstock that I had used for the eyes and the nose, and I'm going to add some shading to that and also some spots. I did add a spot to his eye as well, and then I'm going to bring in some little hearts that I've cut out with a heart die set, and I'm going to layer those onto my card with some liquid glue. I did add a little bit of sparkle and shine to the hearts, and I also embossed a sentiment from the Clearly Canine sentiment set with some white embossing powder onto some teal cardstock. I hope that all of these cards have given you some fun ideas for using the new June release from Neat Tangled. There are so many fun products in this release, and I really enjoyed working with the ones that I have here, and I hope that you will stop by my blog to get more information on each of the cards, including still pictures and products used. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back again very soon with more inspiration, and until then, have a great day. Bye!